Hi everyone, I'm Shelley and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's video is called Did the Watchers Come Back? And I've talked about the Watchers in several of my other videos, and I'll get into them in just a little bit. But the way that I even came to this idea was I was going to sleep the other night, and it never fails that some of my best ideas come to me as I'm trying to go to sleep. And I started thinking about entropy. So first of all, let's just look at what entropy means, and I'm referring to this definition of it here. It's the inevitable and steady deterioration of a system or society. Now, entropy is evident in nature all around us. Things break down over time, and we certainly see that happening with people. We see that within our own lifetime, but we also see that over time as the population moves on. And Trey Smith, in his videos, if you've never watched him, he is very eccentric, but I highly recommend his videos. He said it best when he said that when we look at what we are today, we often think that we are the epitome of what people should be. And that's what evolutionists want us to think. They want us to think that we are the best of the best right now, when in fact, what we are is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Have you ever seen, for example, a video that was recorded and then re-recorded from that recording and then re-recorded? And obviously the quality of that video breaks down over time. And it's been happening to us genetically and I would say intellectually. And while I have no trouble at all seeing entropy in human society as we take a look around us in the world today, there was one thing that I was having trouble reconciling, and that was our advancing technology. If we are breaking down intellectually, if we are just breaking down over time, just as everything else in creation is, how can technology be advancing at such a huge rate? And this is again, obviously speculation. I don't have the answers to any of this, but this is what I do a lot. I always have things running through my head, and this was the idea that I came up with. As I was trying to reconcile this fact, I started thinking about the days of Jared. The book of Enoch tells us that it was in the days of Jared when the fallen angels came down to earth, aka the Watchers, and they started reproducing with human women and they had children with them. But that wasn't the only thing that they did. They also shared technology, which is something that they were not supposed to do, and in fact, God punished them for it. The Watchers revealed occult secrets to mankind. They went against God's will and taught humans not only various creative arts, but valuable knowledge related to science and technology, agriculture, the use of cosmetics, metallurgy, medicine, astrology, astronomy, and much more was also a gift from the Watchers to mankind. Unfortunately, the Watchers also taught humans how to engage in war. Now, I have to reiterate the fact that I do believe that people were far more intelligent in those days because they were still in their prime state of being, almost exactly as God created Adam and Eve, although the fall is where entropy began. So once Adam and Eve sinned, that then branched out to all of humanity and entropy began. So even though the people then were obviously more advanced than what we are now, the technology given to them by the fallen angels would have definitely been a boost because those angels have been around for how long in comparison to humanity. So even if you look at people back then being far better than what we are now, that doesn't compare with what the Watchers would have known. So again, I kind of look at that as a boost in technology. And that is really what gave me the idea of how we are getting our technology today. So now those of us who are trying to dig up what really happened in our past because things have been covered to such a huge extent, we often kind of look on the days of the antediluvian times and we can just imagine what sort of advancements, what sort of technologies would have been going on during that time. Not to mention the rampant sin that would have been happening during that time. But that's something that we're going to get to a little bit later. The Watchers, however, they were not, and I mentioned this before, they were forbidden to give any of this knowledge to humanity. And they also brought sin into humanity, which I said I was going to talk about later, but I think this has to at least be worth mentioning now because these are the things that started leading up to the days of Noah. A lot of times when we are thinking about the watchers, we are kind of automatically thinking of Genesis 6, but it is not in the days of Noah that the watchers came down. It was, in fact, in the days of Jared that they came down. And in the days of Noah, it was when they were dealing with the repercussions of the Nephilim and all of the effect of that they had on society. So we have all of these beautiful structures that are thought to be antediluvian, the pyramids, the ziggurats, the Sphinx, and yes, even a lot of what people are calling Tartarian architecture is thought to have possibly come from antediluvian times. But the fact remains that if we are to listen to the historical narrative, things really got dumbed down after the flood. After the flood, we lost all of the technology that had been given to us by the Watchers, and the people then basically had to start from scratch. So what we get of the past after the flood are images of very primitive technology, which again, we don't know if this is really what's true, but if we are to follow what they're telling us, you know, this is the sort of thing they were using in the Middle Ages, which was what, at least 1,000 years past the time of the flood? I'm not even doing my math. Yeah, it would actually be far more, thousands of years past the time of the flood. And yet here they are using this primitive technology. And so that really begins to show how this entropy has taken effect, and especially now without the use of this injected technology into society. I mean, look how long horse and buggies, or some variation of horse and buggy, or horse and chariot, or horse and cart, was used in history. So here we have a tapestry showing a horse and chariot being used in ancient Egypt. Then we have here a horse and buggy being used in ancient Rome. We have a horse and buggy being used in the Middle Ages. And here we still have a horse and buggy being used in the 19th century. And I even have to show that just now, it could just be the images that I picked out, but let me see, was it this one? We can even look at the degradation of the horse and carts over time. So we've got, this beautiful elaborate pageantry on these horses here. And then we go to the Roman one, still pretty fancy, but not quite as elegant as the one before. And then we go to the one in the Middle Ages, still rather nice. And I get it. This was just a simple farmer with what he had, but I think even there it shows how much time has passed between ancient Egypt to the 19th century, and yet no advancements in transportation beyond the steam engine at this point in time. So how did we all of a sudden start getting all of these racing technologies coming at us shortly after this time, after going a couple thousand years with even just using the same method of transportation? Suddenly, something just clicked. All of a sudden, we've got steam engines. We've got the Industrial Revolution. We have zeppelins, or what they will call airships. I mean, first of all, let's just look at the buildings here. Look at this architecture. Absolutely stunning. And then we've got this zeppelin in the sky. And it really does, this is one of those photos that really does make you think, things are not what they told us they were. But if we are going to go with their timeline, all of a sudden, boom, we've got zeppelins in the sky. Here's another one. So again, you can still see the beautiful architecture. I'm not sure if it's the same zeppelin or not. Let's see if it's the same. Well, it's the same photographer, I think. I don't know. It actually doesn't say. Maybe not. It's from the same website. That's all I know for sure. Anyway, then suddenly in the 19th century, all of a sudden, boom, there is the automobile and the invention of it. Then shortly after that, we have the beginning of air travel. And again, I want you to think about the fact that thousands of years have gone by where technology was completely stagnant. And then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, boom, things took off and really started happening at a breathtaking pace. Then we have rocket ships. And no matter where you think that it actually went to, because I think that that is certainly debatable, the fact remains is that they did come up with enough technology to at least shoot this gigantic thing up into the sky. And then I think it was in the 1960s when the computer was created. I'm just kind of remembering this off the top of my head. I could definitely be wrong. But, the computer in the 1960s, obviously not anywhere close to being the types of computers that we're using today, but it was the beginning, just as the airplane was the beginning of flight. And then now we have screens. And sure, technologically that certainly looks advanced, but this is something that I think we can all agree is adding to the entropy of society. So if we look at a basic timeline, say from the industrial revolution, which was what was it, maybe around the 1860s or so, and then up through what they say was the first, man walking on the moon in the 1960s. In 100 years, all of that happened when thousands of years had passed prior to that with nothing happening. In fact, those 1,000 years, it would have actually shown entropy, in my opinion. Yet here we are, and as a society, we're certainly looking like we are going downhill, yet our technology just continues to increase and increase and increase. Just look at the screens. Because of things like these screens, people can't remember phone numbers anymore. I'm one of them. I can remember phone numbers that I knew from before, but now it's as if we've become so lazy that we just type them in our phone, put someone's name, and press that number. And so if we would actually be asked for a phone number or for our husband's phone number or for our friend's phone number, a lot of times we wouldn't even know it unless we pulled out our phone. When, if you think about it, I'm sure that most of us remember our childhood phone number. And these are all skills that keep our brain working. How many of you have read the studies where it says that keeping your brain busy, doing puzzles, reading all the time, doing memory exercises help to prevent people from getting Alzheimer's? And yet here we are giving out technology that actually prevents us from using that memory. Look at math. People are so reliant on calculators. And I've seen the argument over and over and over again. It's not important to teach our kids basic math anymore because they can just pull out their phone and look it up on the calculator. Well, you know what? I don't want my kids to have to use a calculator when they go to a store. I want them to know these things off the top of their heads, but it's just people have gotten so used to not having to use that part of their brain anymore that they don't even find it odd that we're looking at kids and saying, oh, it's not important that they know their multiplication anymore because they've got a calculator in their pocket. So what? Now, a lot of you don't know this about me, but I'm a writer and I don't write so much anymore, but I used to write a lot. And even now, when I type up things like unit studies and everything, I've gotten to the point where I am so used to autocorrect on my phone that when I'm actually handwriting things, I'm sitting there almost sometimes waiting for that autocorrect to work or maybe to finish that word for me so that I don't have to keep writing it down. Emojis. I always write notes to my husband and put them in his lunch when he goes to work. And these are handwritten notes. I don't text them to him or anything. My children and I, we write little notes, put them in his lunch for him to read while he's eating. And so many times as I'm writing these notes, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish that I knew how to draw this emoji so that he would know what kind of mood I'm expressing as I'm saying this. And as a writer, that's horrible. I should be able to express these things as I'm writing, but instead, even I am growing so dependent on the use of emojis because this is something that is happening from the technology that is being fed to us. So all of this disorderliness that I see actually happening in humanity is clearly everything is deteriorating. And then I realized, what if the Watchers came back? What if they came back at that point in time? And again, we know that the timeline that they give us is likely not real. But at some point in time, it looks like something was injected. Did we have another technology boost? After going thousands of years with just stagnant advancement, just kind of moving along very slowly at a turtle's pace, if not kind of moving back. Did the Watchers come back? The Bible tells us, as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be at the coming of the Son of Man. Now, I have to tell you that, again, the watchers did not come in the days of Noah. They came in the days of Jared. But the technological advancements and the Nephilim were there in the days of Noah. And they were often, along with sin, they were often behind a lot of the rampant sin that was happening. So what we are hearing all the time now is alien technology. We're hearing about reverse engineering. And at one point I remember reading something that we got fiber optics from alien technology and reverse engineering. And all of these other advances that, people will attribute to aliens. Were they aliens? Or is this watcher technology? Is this Nephilim technology? Did these watchers come back and have more children? Or do we still have the same Nephilim bloodline going on from before? Remember, Genesis 6 tells us that there were giants on the earth, and giants, Nephilim is translated giant very often in those days and also after that. So it happened again at some point. And we know that something similar is going to happen again, because it tells us, as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be at the coming of the Son of Man. Now, I don't know if they've been here all along and all of a sudden just started interceding again, or if they had left. Well, I know that the ones that did it before were punished, but if more came and decided to do the same thing. But the fact remains that something happened. There was some sort of technology boost, because what we see going on around us with entropy, it is evident. It is not a question, it is a fact that entropy happens in all of nature. So what happened with the technology? We had help. That's what it is. And again, we can look at entropy as being a natural result of sin. It happened because of the fall of man. But we also help it along also. I think that the entropy is happening in humanity, at least, in a more alarming rate now than ever before. Because now we're kind of giving our own entropy boost, not a technology boost, but an entropy boost. Because we've got factory schooling going on, all kinds of social engineering happening there. The entertainment industry, they're telling us that they're all in on it. I mean, look at the people here. I don't know everyone because I don't really watch that much of this stuff, but here we see Johnny Depp, Drake, Christina Aguilera, I think that's Bono, Rob Blagojevich, Leonardo DiCaprio, Justin Bieber, Beyonce, Emma Watson, Tyra Banks, I think that is. Anyway, they're telling us that they're all in on these things. So not only is school socially engineering our children, the entertainment industry is socially engineering not only children, but adults too, everyone who watches it. And the adults, most adults have gone through traditional schooling, so they have also dealt with the social engineering, which at this point in time, if we look at the schools around us, we have to admit they're social engineering like crazy now. They don't even try to hide the fact that it's no longer about education. How much is social media socially engineering us? Algorithms. I'm guilty of this too. I've been on Twitter and Instagram more than I should have been lately, especially Twitter. We all fall prey to these things. And I'm going to say it, jabs. They're also, they're adding to the degradation of society. People are getting sick. And from the rest of the pharmaceuticals. What did that article that I read to you tell us? It told us that the watchers gave us the information about medicine. I'll read this part again. It says, they went against God's will and taught humans not only various creative arts, but valuable knowledge related to science and technology, agriculture, which we're getting at, the use of cosmetics, metallurgy, medicine, astrology, astronomy, and much more. Medicine. I want to let you in on a little secret. The watchers, they don't like us. Neither do the fallen angels. Now, you could argue that they're the same thing, and some of them are, but I think that not all fallen angels were posted as watchers. But one thing's for sure is that They do not like us. They have it in for us, and yet here we are using all of these things that were, quote, gifted to us by them. We've also got fluoride in the mix. How many cities and towns have fluoride in the water? On top of the fluoride toothpaste, on top of the fluoride treatments at the dentist's office, on top of the fluoride drops that a lot of pediatricians give to children. What is fluoride known to do? Well, for example, it is known to decrease IQ. And I believe that there have also been links with fluoride to Alzheimer's. And that's just two things. There's a whole slew of them, and there used to be really great documentaries on YouTube years ago about this, but of course they were taken off. But then again, we've got the screens dumbing everyone down, and I have to say, I am guilty of this as well. Again, there's some way that we are all ensnared by this system. So the social engineering certainly is affecting us intellectually. But then if we look health-wise, we've got this genetically modified food going into our bodies, on top of lots of really unhealthy food that a lot of us are feeding to our children, especially in this day and age when that's all we can afford because food prices have gone so high. Then, of course, we have geoengineering. What's being sprayed in the sky that we are breathing in, that is going down into our water supply, that is going down onto the crops that we eat or that the animals that we eat are eating? All of these things are adding to the entropy that was already beginning in the first place. So things are really starting to spiral out of control. So, as it was in the days of Noah, what was there? Advanced technology. There was increasing and constant sin. There were the Nephilim, which a lot of us believe that the elites, the powers that be that we always talk about, may very well be in that Nephilim bloodline. So I think that it's really important that we take a look at these things, look around us, be aware. But I have to add this, and this is actually something I'm going to make a whole video on at some point. Don't let yourself get dragged so far down the rabbit hole that you can't even enjoy life anymore because you are seeing things everywhere. Because I assure you that it can get to the point where sometimes you start seeing things that are not there. So really, if you find yourself getting depressed and being unable to just enjoy anything, I want you to remember that our God is an awesome God who is going to conquer all of this and who is going to win in the end. So if you find yourself, though, at that point, it might be time to take a step back and just leave the rabbit hole for a while and start enjoying life and the beautiful things, because there are still very good and beautiful things out there. But in the meantime, I think that it is important that we do realize that we could very well be living in the time spoken of as it was in the days of Noah. Because while entropy is a sure thing, this boost in technology that we've had, like in the past 150, 160 years, is unprecedented, at least, well, we don't know antediluvian times. Before the flood, we don't know how quickly things happened. But at least if we follow the timeline, it's unprecedented what is going on right now. And if we look at society, the sin, the rampant sin happening everywhere, the discord, I just want you to ask yourself, if this is that time, are you ready? Because I just want to end with this one thing. John 14:6 tells us, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Our time could very well be short. It might not be. But are you right with God? That is the most important thing at this point in time. No matter how much knowledge you have intellectually, the most important thing that you can do is accept the gift of salvation, because it might be almost time. We might be almost finished. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.